Just quickly before we start, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan, and this is my first ever video on professional wrestling. I hope it's received well. Stick around until the end because my opinion throughout this AJ marathon has changed in ways that I'm going to discuss later. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and comment what you think about AJ Lee returning to the WWE. So it did happen. AJ Lee made her return to the WWE after 10 years away. To celebrate, I thought I'd go and watch AJ Lee's standout matches with any woman during this era where women were taken less seriously than their male counterparts. I find that the most memorable moments are in backstage segments or promos in the ring. But don't be fooled by modern talk, there are some great women's wrestling from this era. AJ Lee notably had a run as Raw GM, which fans loved, which may be what she's most remembered for, but today we're going to focus solely on her wrestling. The commentary. The commentary. Did you know that all women secretly hate each other? Did you know that JBL has not worked out women despite being married 3 times? That's just the commentary in the opening match. This is going to be a wild ride. To set the scene, AJ Lee and Kaitlin would wrestle on NXT a few months ago for the Divas Championship. Kaitlin would retain. However, things have been complicated as now there's an even bigger prize for the winner, Big E and his big muscles, who Kaitlin and AJ Lee are both romantically pursuing. Obviously, since the Divas Championship isn't enough to keep viewers interested in this era of WWE. This match would rather be slow and uneventful. I wouldn't label it as a bad match as it does have its moments. Towards their finish is where it really picks up, as Lee utilizes the ring apron to distract the referee and use a foreign object in a failed attempt to get the win. This is followed up by a very exciting sequence where AJ dives from the top rope but is caught, then is able to turn that via a tilt-a-whirl into a Black Widow, which is turned into a backbreaker and then a spear by Kaitlin. It was a really cool sequence. Another Black Widow follows, not much later, and secures the win. If this match had a quicker pace, it could have been a classic. However, the slow pace is probably a result of women's matches usually being 5 minutes long in this era, but this match pushed 10 minutes. It was unfamiliar territory for both women, who are relatively inexperienced at this stage. AJ Lee would team up with Big E to take on Kaitlin and new love interest Dolph Ziggler a few months later at SummerSlam. Going into this match, the biggest question on my mind was how much of it would be wrestled by the women and how much Big E and Ziggler would lead the match. Keep in mind that both men are more experienced than the women. Ziggler and Big E start the match, which I definitely expected, and there's good stuff between them throughout the match. But let's focus on AJ Lee, and we're in luck because it's not long until AJ Lee and Kaitlin are switched into the match. Once again, nothing super exceptional happens between AJ Lee and Kaitlin. There's various slams, some strikes, and then into various holds. AJ Lee does this very cool double neckbreaker to Kaitlin, which is really fun to see. AJ then takes a brutal bump on a shoulder tackle. Ziggler and E would then wrestle the remainder of the match. I was curious to see the internet's thoughts on this match at the time, so I headed over to cagematch.net and found that it's pretty panned critically. It has a 4.5 out of 10 average rating, which I do not think is deserving of such a low score. It's not a great match, and nothing super special occurs, but it's certainly deserving of a little bigger than that. After the feud with Kaitlin, Lee would enter into a feud with Brie Bella, which produced several pan matches, which are not worth talking about. Follow up this feud with what many consider her best match to date. It's actually her second highest rated match on Cage Match. Spoiler alert, her most liked match on Cage Match is also against Natalya, which we will also discuss later on. Obviously, when you watch Natalya, you expect a serviceable match. Even a relatively inexperienced AJ Lee looks like a superstar against Natalya. The match starts with some amazing chain wrestling led by Natalya, which is climaxed with a suplex into a pin. AJ Lee is drop kicked and heads to the outside to evade further punishment. Natalya follows, but is cut off by Tamina. Natalya is able to catch AJ coming to the outside and beat her down a bit. I think this match is made more exciting by the presence of Tamina, who constantly builds tension. The expectation is always there that she is going to do something to interfere. AJ ends up hitting a spinning kick on Natalya off the ropes. Natalya changes the pace and eventually gets AJ in the sharpshooter, to which she is to escape. Tamina then distracts Natalya, which allows AJ to put her in the Black Widow. Natalya escapes and attempts to put AJ in the sharpshooter again. Roll up by AJ, 1, 2, 3. I'm very curious as to whether a rematch can live up to this match, but interestingly enough, the rematch and the most liked match of AJ's on Cage Match happened on Main Event, which is a show you don't expect to see fantastic matches on. I'm excited to watch this match as so far the longest match we watched was against Kaitlin at Payback 2013. It lasted 9 minutes but we did not cover it hugely due to a lot of the time being slow-paced filler. Despite being an enjoyable match, it did feel as though multiple minutes should have been cut to make it even better. This match on Main Event lasts 15 minutes and has a great score of 6.8 out of 10 on Cage Match, which leads me to expect the pacing will be more engaging. It also happens in England, which is the greatest country in the world. The older UK sets are so cool. The traditional black taxis and post boxes on the stage add a nice touch, alongside the large flag of course. This match does well, building upon Lee and Natalya's previous contest. Natalya immediately with a headlock takeover of AJ Lee. The match starts quick and we get a kip up and a roll up from Natalya to establish an engaging pace. An interesting sequence with a headlock by AJ and Natalya trying to throw her over into a pin. We get a Hunger Games reference on commentary as we cut to Natalya's husband, Tyson Kidd, watching on a monitor backstage. It's interesting to note that Natalya won the Divas Championship a few years ago in a handicap match against Lay Cool, but has yet to win a singles championship in a one-on-one match. She would eventually go on to do this, but spoiler alert, it would not be tonight on Main Event. We get a nice callback to the first match as AJ flees the ring. Natalya gives chase, but Tamina intimidates Natalya into halting the chase. AJ then attempts to dropkick, but is caught by Natalya and thrown into the barricade. This is the exact same sequence as in the first contest. Natalya heads to the top rope, but takes a hard bump when AJ Lee pulls her from the turnbuckle. Total Divas is being promoted heavily on commentary as this match took place only 4 months after its debut on television. AJ Lee throws Natalya to the outside, where she is attacked by Tamina to the referee's ignorance. A DDT from AJ initiates a referee's 10 count as both women are incapacitated. AJ gets the pin and gets a 2. Natalya gets some steam back with a clothesline and a brutal snap suplex. Natalya attempts a sharpshooter, but is rolled up by Lee for a 2 count. Another cradle pin by AJ Lee, once again for a 2. Natalya finally gets the sharpshooter, to which Tamina breaks up. Natalya wins the match by DQ, but AJ Lee retains the championship as per rules. This was a good match. I liked it more than the first contest we covered, but that's mostly because with more time on the clock, both women could put more meat on the bone. This match begins with some conflict between Paige and Nikki Bella before both turn to attack AJ Lee. Lee fends them off, throwing Paige out of the ring. Of course, this is a lot of people's biggest criticism of freeweight matches, the fact that they're mostly built around 2 participants, with a third one being removed from action. As we go back and forth between AJ Lee and Nikki Bella, we hear some very loud CM Punk chants, which were probably heightened due to his wife being in the match. AJ Lee rolls out of the ring and is replaced by Paige, who is cut off by Nikki Bella. Bella puts Paige in an armbar, which Paige manages to turn into a schoolboy-like pin for the 2 count. As Paige runs the rope, she is grabbed by AJ Lee and pulled out of the ring. She throws her into the barricade and does the same to Nikki Bella as Bella attempts to attack her. There's a really hard-hitting action from AJ Lee and Paige in the ring. They seemingly have great chemistry with one another. AJ Lee goes to the top rope but is pushed off by Nikki Bella. Paige runs in and throws Nikki Bella out of the ring. I love a triple threat match, but it's sometimes hard to suspend disbelief when a competitor is thrown out of the ring and spends multiple minutes recovering and selling on the outside. Once again, I must reiterate that Paige and AJ Lee work so well together. For those who don't know too much about AJ Lee's career, Paige and Lee face each other on quite a few occasions, which make me want to go back and watch those matches. There's a great little sequence where Lee gets Nikki Bella and the Black Widow and things look like they're over until Paige superkicks AJ Lee to break up the submission. Not long after, a crazy powerbomb by Nikki sends both Paige and Lee crashing to the canvas. As Bella goes for the pin, Lee rolls out to escape. A torture rack attempt by Nikki onto Paige, but no successful pin due to Lee. Nikki then takes a nasty bump onto the outside. A Black Widow by Lee on Paige results in a victory. Out of all the matches we've watched in this marathon, this match would probably be the most likely to be recommended by me to a friend who is new to watching professional wrestling. It has its hard-hitting moments and its drama, and it's paced so well. It's only 10 minutes long, and because of this quick pace, feels a lot shorter. It's a really good introduction to AJ Lee or women's wrestling of this era for a new fan. This marathon has given me a better appreciation of the era of women's wrestling. I've realized that not many of the wrestlers from this era were bad wrestlers, they simply were not given opportunity to shine like in today's wrestling landscape. AJ Lee, Kaitlin, Nikki and Paige are all women who can put on gripping matches when given the opportunity to do so. It'll be very exciting to see what AJ Lee does now that she's back in the WWE. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. I plan to make more wrestling videos on the wrestling I find interesting. I have a Chris Masters deep dive in the works and would love to watch and review some pay-per-views.